Today we're going to be taking a look at set 6956 Stellar Recon Voyager. In this set, we get two M Tron astronauts and they get a walkie-talkie, a wrench, a blaster, one of these ambiguous tools, and a megaphone. Wait, a megaphone? Why would they need a megaphone? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially since they already have a walkie-talkie to stay in contact. So maybe this is something different, like a special scanner or an X-ray device to look through walls. Yeah, that's more interesting. It also fits better with the idea that M Tron is a mining operation. So, for example, this astronaut can scan a wall to see if it contains any cool minerals, and if it does, the other astronaut can use this blaster to dig it out. Afterwards, they can take those minerals and store them inside this crate, which can then be carried by this small buggy. Unfortunately, however, the magnet system that holds the crate is at the front of the buggy, and that makes the whole thing unbalanced. And it also looks really stupid. Yikes. Since this included buggy kinda sucks, I would suggest using the mobile satellite uplink instead. Like I mentioned in my review of that set, there's a big open area at the back, so it feels only natural that it would be used for a crate to carry resources. This also gives a greater purpose to the mobile satellite uplink. Otherwise, we could also pick up this crate with the Celestial Forager. Both options seem pretty good to me, but I'll let you decide which one's better. But let's go back to the Stellar Recon Voyager, and if you don't mind, I would like to bring the Galaxy Explorer to make a bit of a comparison between the two sets. I think it goes without saying, but the Stellar Recon Voyager feels very reminiscent of the Galaxy Explorer. Not only are these two sets comparable in size, they also share various details and play features. For example, we can see a pair of rocket boosters hanging on either side of the cargo bay. And below or above them, we of course get some massive wings to make the spaceship as steady as it can be. In the middle of both spaceships, we get a large cockpit with a roof that can open up. And behind the cockpits, the spaceships become wider and taller to accommodate for the large cargo at the back. But if we go at the front, well, here's where the similarities stop. On the Stellar Recon Voyager, we can see the previously mentioned buggy sitting at the front of the ship. And quite honestly, I think this is the worst part of this set. I mean, really? A buggy? A buggy at the front of the spaceship? That's the best we can do, guys? Come on. This is stupid. I understand that LEGO wanted to include a crane at the back, but I don't think this was a good compromise. Personally, I would have preferred if the front of the Stellar Recon Voyager was more like the front of the Galaxy Explorer. Instead of having a bunch of decorations and gizmos, the Galaxy Explorer goes for a sleek and stylish triangular design. Even today, this still looks incredibly good. But unfortunately, the Stellar Recon Voyager is stuck with this goofy looking buggy and two really long antennas. And even if we remove the buggy, it would still look pretty dumb. But enough said. We can now move on to the interior of the cockpit. Of course, this cockpit is spacious enough to fit 2 or 3 minifigures, but weirdly enough, they don't get proper seats. And this minifigure at the front will have to pilot the craft with the steering wheel and this special control panel in front of it. I know some people would complain about the lack of detail inside the cockpit, but I don't really care. I mean, the same lack of detail can be found in the Galaxy Explorer, so overall it doesn't really bother me. Also, it would be super easy to add your own parts to make this cockpit better if you wanted to. On the outside of the cockpit, we will see some large black doors, and next to them we get some designated spaces to store some M Tron crates. This 2-stud wide storage space on either side of the cockpit is made with the indentation from this wedge plate, and quite frankly, I think this is a great use of this special part. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to store your crates on the sides of the ship, but it looks pretty cool, so I'll give it a pass. And now let's go at the back of the Stellar Recon Voyager. Like I mentioned previously, we don't get a proper storage space at the back. Instead, we get a crane that can grab this large M Tron crate which contains the tools that we saw at the beginning of the video. I might as well be honest with you, I think the inclusion of this crane was a mistake. As you can see, this crane has basically no freedom of movement, so it's pretty useless at picking up stuff. Another thing that I don't like is that this crane takes up so much space, and yet the back section still feels empty. Seriously, look at all this free space in front and around the crane. This space could have been used for a small lab or a cargo bay for the buggy or something else entirely, but instead we just get a stupid ass crane that doesn't do shit. Personally, I would have made this space a cargo hold, and I would have included a small ramp that could be used to transport the cargo inside, just like in the Galaxy Explorer. Or better yet, why not use the crane from the Celestial Forager to load this cargo hold? That set feels a bit useless compared to many of the others, so by making it compatible with the Stellar Recon Voyager, it would have become far more useful. Clearly, there are so many things that LEGO could have done to make better use of this back section, so it feels a bit disappointing to only get a small crane. But let's not waste too much time on this back section. Instead, let's focus our attention on the top of the ship. Starting from the middle, we'll see a pair of large antennas surrounding an M Tron logo, and right behind it, we'll see a cluttered mess of various electronic devices which stand on top of these large black wings. Each wing gets an M Tron logo to indicate the position of the engine underneath. And finally, there's a small third wing in the middle which holds these two powerful rocket boosters. Of course, you'll notice the large trans-neon green radar dishes on each one of those rocket boosters. And funnily enough, none of the other M Tron ships have those radar dishes, so it got me thinking, what could these radar dishes represent? Well, since this set is a pretty big cargo ship, I figured it would probably be used for interstellar travel, which means that these large radar dishes could represent some kind of warp drive. So whenever the M Tron mission wants to send some things to the space agency, they simply load up the small and large crates, activate the warp drives, and boom, they're good to go out in space. And after a quick trip through the fourth dimension, they're back in the solar system. Now, all they need to do is land on Clark Base on the moon, and they'll be able to trade their radioactive pips for some supplies. And there you go, that's how I see this set being used in the LEGO Space universe. So, overall, what do I think of this set? Well, I've already said it, but I think the inclusion of a crane at the back was a bad idea. Not only is it an underwhelming play feature, it also makes poor use of the available space. Like I pointed out at the beginning of this review, I also really dislike the position of the small buggy at the front, and I think it should have been at the back instead. Otherwise, I think this is a pretty solid set. It looks a bit goofy because of all the antennas and various details, but overall, this is a pretty good spaceship. But yeah. I don't really have anything else to say about this set, so I guess that's gonna be it for today, and thanks for watching.